Well, hello there, and welcome to the Softube booth at NAMM 2021. We have a very special event for you today, and that's 10 ways to help you mix and produce using the Console One ecosystem. So, Console One and Console One Fader make up the Console One ecosystem along with its supporting channel strips and plugins, and we're going to dive deep into what you could do with my 10 top favorite things. So let's check it out. Simplify your workflow. Getting started with Console One and Console One Fader is easy. It's as easy as taking the Console One plugin and putting it across every channel in your DAW. And by every channel, that also means your auxes, your effects, your buses, your returns, whatever it's called within your DAW, and that includes your stereo out or your main output. Once you do that, you turn on your on-screen display, and you're able to see exactly what is going on in your DAW. I'm able to select tracks at the top. For any supported DAW that has DAW control, you're able to control volume within the DAW. As you can see, I could select a track, turn a knob, and not only does it control the volume within my DAW, but it also controls the volume on Console One Fader. We're able to solo tracks, mute tracks, group tracks, and a lot more. Let's hit play and see what this looks like. You could see I was able to bank between different groups of 20 within Console One. That's because Console One goes from an architecture of 1 to 20 tracks, and Console One Fader uses 1 to 10 tracks and banks in groups of 10. Let's group some of our background vocals and take a listen. It looks like my background vocals start at track 10, so I'm going to go ahead and select my solo on Console One Fader. I could also do this on Console One. I'm going to page over and select a few more tracks. Now that I've selected those tracks, let's solo them, as we did, and hit play. You could do a lot with Console One, and one of my favorite things is being able to group tracks together. Let's actually group those tracks. I'm going to hit Group on Console One, and then I'm going to select each track that I want to group together. There they are. Now that I've done that, I'm able to control the volume of those tracks together with just one fader or one knob. I'm also able to sculpt my tracks. So let's start by adding a little bit of reverb. And let's do a little EQing, compression, and even some shaping to bring out some more sustain. Getting started with Console One is that simple. You put the Console One plugin across all tracks and start affecting your audio immediately. Access Channel Strip Essentials. What I mean by that is Console One is essentially a channel strip. It gives you the essentials to sculpt your audio in the way we used to do with an analog console. We have the ability to do high and low cuts, shape, which is a gate and transient shaper, EQ, compression, and drive. Drive is that analog sound quality that we like from analog consoles. And when cranked to the max, you could even get it to distort in a creative way. We've loaded up 2 guitar tracks here, we've soloed them, and we've grouped them together. Let's see how we could start affecting them. I put in a little bit of an EQ curve. I'm even going to put some compression there, and maybe some drive. But maybe I want to try switching away from the SSL 4000E channel strip that Console One ships with. We have the ability to switch for different channel strips, and regardless of the channel strip you use, your parameters on Console One and on Fader always remain in the same spot, making it very easy to produce, to mix, and to engineer. You could even use console 1 and fader in a live setting. But let's see what some of these channel strips are. I'm going to hit Shift Strip to load a channel strip, and let's load the console 1 British Class A. You'll notice that the EQ took a slightly different shape, so did the compressor, and that's because the channel strip is slightly different in terms of the controls, but what remains the same is the location of those controls. My low cut and high cut are always on the left, followed by the shape. EQ is a 4-band EQ that goes from our low mids to high mids to high. And then in the compressor section, we always know our threshold is located here, a parallel wet dry here, a ratio knob, and attack and release. It's really easy to use. Let's do some listening to this British Class A. That's nice. And just for the heck of it, let's try one more. Shift Strip loads a channel strip, and let's try the American Class A console. You could see the look of this console is very different, but once again, the idea is that everything remains in the same spot. Let's hit play and give it a try. Maybe add some punch. When mixing and matching consoles, it's really that simple. Use your ears. That's right, I said it. Use your ears. Close your eyes and play console 1 and console 1 fader like they're an instrument. The reason why a lot of people think mixes back in the day sounded better wasn't necessarily because the equipment was superior, but it was because we took away a lot of the technology that was in front of us and we just closed our eyes, put our hand on a fader or put our hands on a knob and turned it until it sounded right. Let's listen to some kick drums and see how we could do this. I've got 2 kick drums soloed up, and I'll hit play. We could hear there's a lot of bleed in there. Let's start by using the gate to clean that up. But by closing my eyes and putting my hand on the gate knob, I can really refine that gate to be exactly where I want it, not where I think it visually should be. That's nice. There's still a little bit of bleed, but it cleaned it up. And I can make it a hard gate if I'd like. But I'd like it to be a little more natural for this example. Let me give you a different example. This is a kick drum. We would think that we should be able to come on in and roll out the high end, especially because our analyzer shows us there's not too much going on the high end of the kick. But let's listen to what happens. By rolling off the highs, we end up losing a lot of the detail that makes the kick sound natural. However, if I close my eyes, put my hand on the knob, or close my eyes and use the faders to do my high and low cut, I would have made a much better decision. Let's actually do the opposite. Let's boost a little bit of the low end first, find the fundamental of that kick, and then we'll go in and we'll clean it up with a little bit of a high cut. Nice, that's nice and beefy, nice and deep. And let's even cut some of the lows. Let's add a little bit of attack from the beater. And now that we've done that, we could cut some of the highs. It's that simple. Close your eyes, grab a knob, grab a fader, and make a better mix. Build your mixes with character. Actually, what I should say is build your mixes with drive, saturation, and character. And let's see what I'm talking about. I'll turn on my on-screen display. I've already gone ahead and grouped a few guitars together. Let's listen to those. They sound fairly good right out of the box, but there's a little bit more we could do, and that's by using the drive and character. Listen as I turn the drive up on the SSL 4000E channel strip that's included. Hear how the tracks come together? They glue together, they feel like they get a little wider, a little bit bigger, and just sound better. And our character knob underneath takes our drive quality from a darker sound to a brighter sound. Let's listen to what that does. And each channel strip comes with its own separate drive. We've been listening to the SSL 4000E. Let's hit Shift, Strip, and load a different drive. Let's check out what's going on with the SSL XL 9000K series console. With this console, instead of just going from dark to a brighter sound, the character takes us from a second order harmonic to a third order harmonic. Each channel strip has its own unique drive and character. Let's try just one more. The Summit Audio Grand Channel allows you to decide whether you're going to drive the equalizer or the compressor. And if you use Console 1 Fader, you can actually load the drive separately from the channel strip. And look at all the different options we have available to us within this menu. Here's a quick tip. If you want to really get your track sounding analog, offset the character a little bit with the drive set at 5. It just makes everything come to life and brings some harmonic width to your entire mix. Personalize your Console 1 ecosystem. What do I mean by that? Well, it's up to you as the artist, engineer, producer, to decide what works best for you. In this case, I'm using a Console 1 and Console 1 fader together. But you could use Console 1 on its own. You could use fader on its own. You could use more than one fader unit to get more than 10 faders. And Console 1 as a plugin recognizes what you have plugged in. Right now, you can see on my screen that we're going from 1 to 20. But if I disconnect Console 1, it instantly goes to just having Console 1 fader connected and shows me that there's just 10 faders available, which are touch sensitive, and you can actually see what you're touching because they light up. You have the ability to switch modes. Right now, you could see that we're in a more mixed type environment mode that allows us to control our faders. But by hitting the mode button, I could switch to see the knobs on Console 1. I could switch to see a meter bridge on the bottom. Or I could be in the environment I've been working in that shows us where to shape, EQ, compress, and drive. And don't think that Console 1 is only for the studio. Console 1 is also for use while tracking because it can control Universal Audio Apollo while tracking, and we've even seen Console 1 and fader on the stage during live performances. Build your own channel strip modularly. What does that mean? Well, you could switch out the shape, EQ, and compressor. It's as simple as going Shift, Shape, and deciding what shape you want. Maybe if you use UAD plugins, you'd like to select a UAD plugin. Let's go down and select the API Vision Gate. Now we've loaded the gate into the shape section. For the EQ, let's load our new Weiss EQ MP. And for the compressor, let's once again load a UAD tube compressor, and we'll go with the LA2A. Now let's listen to some vocals.
Till we move along, 'cause it's darkest before dawn.
We're able to compress with an LA2A, but available to us is also a parallel mix to bring some of the dry signal back in. Let's add a little reverb.
They can keep you from an early grave. There's so much left to say.
Let's put a little low cut.
So listen as you float, listen as you float, listen as you float.
And it's already better, with just a few twists and turns of knobs. But when you're done, We've customized our own channel strip, and we can save it as a preset. It's as simple as going Shift, Save Preset, and you could save and name that preset whatever you'd like for instant recall. Automate with tactile control. Let's listen to our lead vocal.
Still I need you here, just one more moment.
Well, let's start by putting a little bit of reverb on there first. So I'm going to use my sends to do that. I'm going to hit send and bring it up.
And don't take that away. Your voice, it echoes through my head so clear.
Okay, now I have an idea of what this vocal sounds like. Let's do a little bit of automation writing. I'm going to go into my DAW, select the automation type I'd want. In this situation, I'm going to go with latch. I just hit play, and I could automate my fader or any parameter on console 1. Let's try and start off every phrase a little softer, bring up the volume, and then have it taper off at the end of each phrase.
I know what's next, but still I need you here. Just one more moment, don't take that away. Your voice, it echoes through my head so clear. It's never ending, oh, it's never ending.
Okay, that may not have been a perfect pass on my automation the very first time, but you could see in my DAW that we wrote the automation directly into my DAW. At this point, I could just put it over into read, and now when I hit play, you'll see that the fader will move on its own.
I know what's next, but still I need you here. Just one more moment, don't take.
Magic. Simplify your session with layer mode. Take a look at my session. I have over 50 tracks, and it's a pretty big session. But by using Console 1 Fader, I'm able to create layers within Console 1 Fader, which helps us to simplify our entire session. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to turn on my on-screen display, and let's start by grouping a few voices together. I'm going to select a place to put a layer first by hitting Assign Track to Layer, and let's put that on Fader 1. Now I could select which tracks go there. Let's put every single vocal track on that first fader. It even looks like I have a few more on the next page because this is a big session. I'm going to hit OK. And now I've created a layer. Let's create one more layer. I'm going to hit Assign Track to Layer and put this layer on Fader 2. Let's put our guitars there. So we're going to start with track 16. And it even looks like we go all the way up to here. Let's hit OK. And now you can see that we have two faders, one for our vocals, one for our guitars. I'm going to go ahead and create a few more layers, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I've collapsed my session so you could easily see all the faders in my DAW. What we've done is we've taken the first fader and made it control all vocals. You can see them going up and down. The second fader controlling all my guitars. The third fader controlling all my keyboards and other distorted instruments. And then I have a bass fader and then a separate drum fader. And what this allows us to do is now go on in and make any of our sculpting on Console 1 or Console 1 Fader using these faders. We're just listening to drums. I can bring up the bass here. Some keyboard. And all my guitars. There's the vocal, but if I need to make the vocals louder for a client or make them even quieter or even get rid of the vocals to make an instrumental track, it's super simple in layer mode. And it doesn't just apply only to volume. You could apply it to drive, to character, to anything you want. Actually, when you're in layer mode, everything will apply to that layer, which is really cool. Make drums explode with shape. The shape section is about more than just gate. There's also an amazing, powerful transient shaper there. Let's see what we could do. I'm going to start by loading my favorite drum bus channel strip, which is the Chandler Limited Zener Bender for Console 1. We'll put in a little EQ. Put a little drive. And even a little compression. Nice, but listen to how we could use the transient shaper to bring out some sustain in the drums to make them larger than life and really make them explode. That sounds amazing. We usually think about the Weiss Gambit series when it comes to doing really fine-tuning of something or just really detailed EQing or mastering, but check out what we could do in the shape section on drums. Super cool. Widen your mix with the width knob and sends. Well, we know that we can send to reverbs and delays and anything else on either console 1 or console 1 fader with a DAW that has DAW control. Let's see what that looks like. I'll hit play, solo my keyboard, hold send 1, bring up some reverb, maybe even some delay. Super cool, but on console 1 fader, there's also a width knob, and listen to what we could do to the sound of a really wide synth. We can make it even wider by taking the stereo image and widening it. And over here, we have our bass. So let's bring our basses in and listen to this. Now in the case of our bass is actually a little too wide and I'd like it to be a little more centered, so we could use the width knob to collapse to mono at the lower frequencies. Listen to this. By using the knob, I've made anything under 1480 Hz collapse to mono, but still kept the top end open for a little bit of that shine on all of my electric basses. That's all for now on the Console 1 ecosystem. Visit your local dealer for a Console 1 or Console 1 fader, or visit Softube.com for a free 20-day demo of any of our great plugins.